Hi everyone, welcome to my first tutorial video. If you're watching this, you might well be aware that my name is in fact Charlie Barnes and that I'm a music maker. I make music in a couple of different capacities. Sometimes I am the originator of the music, and sometimes I help other music originators realise their visions. Today I'm going to talk to you about some of my own music. I asked if anyone would like to learn how to play anything from any of my albums, and a reasonable handful of you asked if I would show you how to play the song All I Have, which is from my 2018 album Oceanography, the music video for which features me screaming at a brick wall, various brick walls around Eastbourne. It's a fairly straightforward song to play. I'm going to show you the main acoustic guitar part. There are some interesting fiddly bits in there, but I think if you're a sort of intermediate guitar player, you should probably be able to pick the stuff up pretty quickly. I'm certainly no expert. If you're a beginner guitar player, there might be some techniques in here that might be stuff you've not really come across before, or might be new ways for you to think about shaping chords, and might just be some interesting little challenges for you to have a go with. And hopefully this will just be a nice way to take up some time if you're still not at work or not at school or not at college or university or whatever, and you need something to fill up your day. So grab your guitar and let's have a go. So you want to tune your guitar to standard E tuning, so that goes E, B, G, D, A, and E. Pretty straightforward. So I'll start with the intro, which goes like this. So, slowed down, that is an F sharp minor chord up on the A string, beginning at the 9th fret. So you want to put your index finger on the 9th fret at the A string, your ring finger on the 11th fret at the D string, your pinky finger on the 11th fret at the G string, your middle finger on the 10th fret at the B string, and rather than do this as a normal bar chord, I'd lift my hand up to leave the top string open. And what you want to do is try and mute the bottom E string with the tip of your index finger. So you get this. So if you did it as a normal bar chord, it would sound quite a bit different. There's basically an E running all the way through this pattern, which gives it a bit of a just interesting feel, basically. So that's your first chord, an F sharp minor with an open E at the top. And you can hear it's a weird kind of up, down, up strumming pattern. Jing, 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 jing. I double tracked it on the recording, and then I time stretched each one so that they were kind of weirdly perfectly in time with each other, but then it introduced some strange artifacts because obviously my timing is crap, so it was kind of doing a lot of stretching, and but I actually quite liked the sound of that. I thought it was interesting. Anyway, onto the second chord, which is essentially an E chord, but it has a couple of, funny bits in it. So you want to have the bottom string open, the E string, and then you'll put your ring finger on the 11th fret of the A string, your index finger on the 9th fret of the D string, your pinky finger on the 11th fret of the G string, and then leave the other two strings, the B and the E, open. So then you get this sound. Okay, so next up, you've got a D chord, and again, this has been done in a slightly unusual way. So you want to put your middle finger on the 10th fret of the E string, which is your root note of D, and then you put your index finger on the 9th fret of the A string, your pinky finger on the 12th fret of the D string, your ring finger on the 11th fret of the G string, and again leave those top two strings, the B and the E, wide open, so you get this sound. The fourth and final chord is an A, and so you want to ignore the bottom string again. You want to try, I tend to mute that with my thumb, I think. You could mute it with your middle finger as well. You've got a couple of options there, or you could just be really accurate with your right hand, but I'm not very good at doing that kind of thing. So you want to play an open A string. You want to have your ring finger on the 11th fret of the D string. And you want to have your index finger on the 9th fret of the G string. And again, leave the top two open. So yeah, it is easier with the middle finger to do the mute thing. Okay, so if you stick that all together, you get the F sharp minor chord with the open top E, taking care to mute the E string, the bottom E string, with the finger, with your index finger tip, and then you've got the funny E chord that's nice and wide open. I use that chord in quite a few of my songs actually, and then you've got the D chord with the top two strings open. And again, I use this chord shape a lot in a lot of my songs, so rather than doing a D major bar chord like this, I do it this way instead. So essentially you have 2 octaves of this separate, well, this like interval of a third, and then I leave the top open. You can do some interesting stuff with that, I find. And I like the sound of quite close together notes on the guitar. I just think there's something nice about it. So, oh, and then you've got that A chord to finish off with, which again sounds nice and open. So that's the full pattern. And there you have it. So we'll go straight from there into the verse part, which is fairly straightforward. And it's, rather than being that kind of robotic do-do-do-do-do-do strumming pattern, it's a bit more open, that kind of singer-songwritery, acoustic-y, nice, easy strumming stuff. So you start off with the D chord that we had from the intro part. And what I tend to do is I'll strum the bottom strings for the first part of it and then bring in the top strings, so it's like closed and then opens up, so it's like, that's the general vibe of this part. So you start with that D chord, so, and then you come down to this chord, so things get interesting here. So you want to put your ring finger on the 9th fret of the E string, and then your index finger you want to bar on the 7th fret of the A string and the D string. So it's only a small amount of barring you have to do there, just a little bit. And then you want to put your pinky finger on the 9th fret of the G string, so you get this chord. That's nice. Again, you do that, strum the bottom part and then bring in those open strings. And then the third chord of the pattern is this guy. Ooh! So for this one, it's an open E, and then you put your index finger on the 11th fret of the A string, your pinky finger on the 14th fret of the D string, getting pretty high now, your ring finger on the 13th fret of the G string, and your middle finger on the 12th fret of the B string. And again, leave the top E open. So on this one, you've got the bottom E and the top E open. And I think, to be honest, I just strummed the whole chord this time, so. No, I don't. I definitely do the bottom and top thing. Okay, so. And you play that chord twice in the pattern, so it's I bet my life on this. And then you come to the next line, which starts with the first chord of the song, that F sharp minor, with the top E open. And again, remember, muting the bottom E with your index finger over here. So it's, and by God, I'll... And then you come to the next chord, which is this. That's a fun one. So, for this one, you have your middle finger on the 7th fret of the E string. And then you want to mute the A string using that finger, or using this finger that's going spare. Depends what's more comfortable for you. You leave the D string open, and then you fret the 7th fret of the G string with your ring finger, and the 7th fret of the B string with your pinky finger, and then leave the top E open again. So. And then you go to a really nice A chord that I remember my friend Tom, who I used to be in a band with at school, he introduced me to this chord. He was obsessed with it. He thought it was the coolest chord in the world, and he's not far wrong. It's pretty great. So with this one, you want to mute the bottom E string with your thumb or your index finger, whatever's most comfortable for you, and you play an open A, and then you put your ring finger on the 7th fret of the D string, middle finger on the 6th fret of the G string, and leave the top 2 strings open, as per usual with this song. So that's the verse part. Apologies if you feel like I'm rushing ahead, but I don't want this video to be astronomically long, and we've still got quite a few chords to get through. But obviously you can pause this, go back, go over bits as many times as you want, and I'll try and play each chord nicely voiced out so that you can hear what it should sound like at your end to double check anything. Okay? So now we get to what I see as kind of the difficult bit of this song, and if I were to play you the actual like acoustic guitar stem from the actual album version of this song, you would be horrified by how bad my playing is, but it's okay because it's under a massive wall of backing vocals and loads of like percussion and clapping and a big old dirty bass guitar and stuff, so it's pretty well hidden, but the playing is fucking appalling. Anyway, this is the pre-chorus part, and you kind of go back to that strumming pattern for this one, because it kind of, where you've had that wide open sound for the verse, the pre-chorus brings it right back down, except all the vocals then get really big. So the first chord is the F sharp minor chord, however this time you don't leave the top E string open. So you want to bar your first finger down. So your index finger, you want to bar across the whole of the 9th fret. So that's 9, 11, 11, 10, 9. That's starting from the A string, again muting the bottom E string with your index finger. So F sharp minor, that's it. And then you want to play C sharp minor bar chord, like that. So that is your index finger barred all the way across the 9th fret, and then your ring finger on the 11th fret of the A string, your pinky finger on the 11th fret of the D string, and then those top 3 strings are all taken care of by your finger that's barring across the whole of the 9th fret. So if this is the first time you've played around with bar chords, good luck. They are a pain to get used to at first, but you will get there, and then it'll open up a whole world of cool stuff in your guitar playing, and it'll make life a lot easier as well. And then you want to leave that finger, the index finger, barred across here, because that's going to be the basis of the next chord. And basically what you want to do with this next bar chord is you want to imagine that this finger is actually the nut and you're basically just playing a C chord. So you know the C chord, probably. The C chord is one of the basic open chord shapes, but with this bar chord what we're doing is we're playing a C chord but just putting it in a different position, like this. So to achieve that, like I say, you want to bar this index finger on the 9th fret, and then you'll put your pinky on the 12th fret of the A string, your ring finger on the 11th fret of the D string. The bar will be taking care of the G string on the 9th fret, and then you want to put your middle finger on the 10th fret of the B string, and again the bar will be taking care of the E string. So you get this. So that sounds nice. For this chord, you still want to have that bar across the 9th fret, but then you want to put your pinky finger on the 12th fret of the E string, your ring finger on the 11th fret of the A string, and then leave everything else just with that bar shape taking care of it. Ooh. So that gives you... And what you can see there is that your hand doesn't really have to move that much. And you finish up with a D major bar chord. So that is barring your first finger, your index finger, across the 10th fret, like this. And then you put your ring finger on the 12th fret of the A string, pinky finger on the 12th fret of the D string, middle finger on the 11th fret of the G string, and then the bar takes care of the B and the E. So that full pattern is the first bit of the pre-chorus, and the first time round you'll play it 3 times. Now we get to the really fucking hard bit. So you want to come down all the way down to the 5th fret. So it's basically, it starts off with the same shape that we've just had, except down at the 5th fret. But you don't play the full chord. So your index finger wants to be on the 5th fret of the E string, your ring finger on the 7th fret of the A string, your pinky finger on the 7th fret of the D string, and your middle finger on the 6th fret of the G string. And that's all the notes that you need for this first part of the second part of the pre-chorus. So you go, when will my generate? That's it. So what I tend to do is I'll be using, rather than holding down the full bar chord, I'll be lifting my fingers ever so slightly, so this finger is taking care of muting these top 2 strings, although I'm sure if you let those 2 strings into the chord in your playing, it wouldn't make a huge difference and it would be totally fine. So I just tend not to, because it makes getting to the next shape a lot easier. So it goes... So this one is hard. So this time you've got your ring finger on the 7th fret of the E string, your index finger on the 5th fret of the A string, and then your pinky will be barring the 7th fret of the D and the G string. So even I can't fucking play it. I wrote it. And then the next chord, you sort of keep some of your fingers in the same place. The next chord is this one. It's a nice chord, I like this one. So again, you've got your ring finger on the 7th fret of the E string, and your index finger on the 5th fret of the A string. But your middle finger now wants to go on the 6th fret of the D string. So you've got the Devil's Harmony in there. And then your pinky finger will go on the 7th fret of the G string. So that's a tough chord to play, but you know. And then the next chord is kind of the same chord, except what I do is I move my index finger to bar down on all of the 5th fret. So then you introduce these extra notes into it. So the penultimate chord of this part of the pre-chorus is the same as the chord before, but then it has this on the top, and maybe this as well. I can't remember. So you got that? And then you come back to the first chord, which is that fairly simple A major bar chord. So now we move into the chorus. Well, basically, the chorus is the intro chords just played slightly differently. So it's, but it's all I have. So you notice that it's just the same chorus, same chords in the chorus as the intro. It's just a different strumming pattern. So it's and then when the drums go into halftime, the kind of boom boom ka boom boom ka, it just follows what the drums are doing basically. So then it goes, oh, it's all I have, all I have. I can't really remember the specifics, but if you listen to the track, you should be able to work it out. That strumming pattern in the chorus, the but it's all I have, all I... that comes from the original riff that this song was written around that didn't make the cut. So it started out like this. Or something like that. But yeah, so that demo will get released in about 50 years. And the middle eight, I think, goes a little something like this. Starts with the first chord of the pre-chorus, that F sharp minor bar chord. This guy, remembering to mute the E string with the tip of your index finger and bar all of the other notes down with your index finger. And then you slide that whole shape up 2 frets. So you bring the shape up so that you're barring across the 11th fret, and then your ring finger is on the 13th fret of the D string. Your pinky finger is on the 13th fret of the G string, and your middle finger is on the 12th fret of the B string, and the bar is taking care of the E string on the 11th fret. And then you bring in that A chord from the intro, the chorus, which is this guy. So, every time I've half a life to throw it down. Easy enough. And then you do a weird D minor shape mini bar chord. This one's a bit fiddly to get around, and again, if you listen to the isolated stems of this recording, you will hear that I played it absolutely atrociously. You want to have your index finger on the 9th fret of the D string, your ring finger on the 11th fret of the G string, your pinky finger on the 12th fret of the B string, and your middle finger on the 10th fret of the top E string. So you just need to be a bit careful with your strumming on this one that you don't bash the bottom strings. Again, I tend to use my index finger here to mute the A string, but the E string, that's there, and if you hit it, it's going to sound a bit weird. It'll sound like, which isn't quite right. So you want to be quite careful on that one. The middle 8 in full goes like this. So you start with that F sharp minor, slide it up 2 frets, play the A chord from the intro, play this new chord, go back and forth between those two chords. So that's the full pattern. You can hear that I keep hitting the open strings at the bottom there, which is probably on the recorded version because that's really hard to play. And then after you've done that a few times, I can't remember how many times, and I'm losing interest, you then play the last part of the middle eight, which is actually just a slight extension of the final chorus. So that's just played with simple strummed out chords. So you start with the same F sharp minor from the pre-chorus and the middle eight, which is this. So that's, but it's all I have. And then you play this guy. I love this chord. Okay, so this is basically a G7 shape, but up the fretboard. So you put your ring finger on the 9th fret of the E string, your middle finger on the 8th fret of the A string, your pinky finger on the 9th fret of the D string, and then you'll bar your index finger across the 6th fret of the G and the B string. That's quite cool. And then the next chord is the same D chord from the intro, except you don't play the top two open strings, so it's just this. And then what you do is you take your ring finger off, but you keep a bar with your index finger, so that on the G string now you're actually playing on the 9th fret. So it goes. So that's quite nice. You've got these two notes quite close together. I like that kind of stuff. And then you just play the A chord from the main strumming pattern. And then you're into the final chorus. And that's pretty much it. So if you spend some time getting your fingers around that one, check back in a couple of weeks and I'll show you how to play the acoustic version, where you use a lot of the same chords but you do some interesting finger picking. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy trying to play this song better than I can. It'd be cool if you want to show me how you're doing. Take some little videos of you playing the different parts and I don't know, post them on the internet or whatever. If there are any bits you're really struggling with, drop me a line on one of the social mediums and I will attempt to help you out or explain something a little bit better. Yeah, good luck. Have fun. Stay safe out there.